Thanks for listening to the NVTV Podcast, produced by Neuqua Media.
Welcome to this episode of the NVTV Podcast. I'm Justin Mascari. On today's show, I have two varsity wrestlers that are going to talk about their upcoming season. Joining me today is Marcus and Amir. Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you so much for having us.
Good to see you, Justin.
Yep. All right, let's just dive into it. So obviously, wrestling season starting. I know you guys are excited.
Sir.
How'd you both get into wrestling? Talk about that. When did it start?
I started my 8th grade year. Ronan, he's been a wrestler for a very long time. He pulled me and Amir in, and it pretty much just started from there. I fell in love with it.
Always being the bigger guy. I didn't have an off-season sport or anything like that from football and rugby. And so, Marcus and Ronan kind of just brought me in there and took me under their wings.
So then, obviously, started middle school. Assuming middle school is pretty different than high school varsity
100%.
level. Can you just talk about that a little bit? Talk about the difference in, training, matches, all that stuff.
I'd say, middle school, it's like you're rolling around on mats. You're just having fun with the guys. But the second you get into high school, it's pretty much everything. Mindset, discipline, conditioning, technique. It's all jumps levels.
Yeah, and same thing as Marcus said. The standard is just set completely differently. It's so much higher. The expectation that your school and that your coaches and just everybody around you expects of you it's way different.
So then with that, obviously sounds like varsity's, obviously the real deal. With Neuqua coming up, like what goals do you guys have this season? State individually and as a team. What are you looking forward to?
I'd say for me personally, I'd like to be qualifying, state, sectionals, regionals, whatever. Just go as far as I can with that. I'd also say that as a team, we lost a couple seniors. We got some new people, so I'd say that we just need to come together as a team, and there's obviously roles to be filled with that. So,
for me, definitely a DVC spot. It would be ideal. That's one of my biggest goals that I haven't been able to achieve in the past few years. But this year's going to be my year. Now, as far as the team goes, it's really just building up the younger guys to kind of just create a stepping stone. Yeah. Just trying to get this program back on track after a few rough years. We, like Marcus said, we did lose a few guys, and just trying to rebuild.
Let's talk about that. Not only are you guys the upperclassmen now, you guys are kind of the shoes that you need to be filled, but when you guys were back down, freshmen, sophomores, only a couple years under your belt, was there somebody on varsity that kind of took you under your wing, helped you out through that change from middle school to high school?
Yeah, for sure. There was a lot of guys, just a few to name. Definitely Nick Pape. Great leader on the football field, on the lacrosse field, and most definitely on the mat. This guy would bring us up. He's always had a smile on his face, win or lose. He had pep talks. He had everything he could. He did everything he could to, just bring us up.
Definitely, I'd say, Nick Pape, he led us all. He was leading practices, showed us new techniques. For me personally, I had a partner named Ish. He kept it competitive. It was like every day I'm like, oh, I gotta beat Ish. But we were still great friends, and great guy.
Shout out you fellas, man.
So then with that, what does a training look like? I know you said middle school, you're just kind of rolling around on the mats having fun. High school, it sounds like you got partners or something. Like, talk a little bit about that, and then what does just kind of a week of practice look like?
I'd say, just going off yesterday, the first week's pretty much just getting conditioning up. You're running, you're kind of like doing jump ropes without the ropes, I guess. You have to see it. Stance in motion. It's really just the conditioning the first week, but I'd say just overall, conditioning, pacing, and technique are really stepped up.
The thing about training in wrestling compared to really other sports is you get in what you put in, If you're just taking it light, if you're going, like he said, in there's conditioning and stuff like that, but 10% of wrestling is, just like the works and all that stuff. But 90% of it's attitude, I'll be honest, like our coaches say. If you don't want it, you're not going to get it. You know, that's just that's a huge factor when it comes to our training. And so that's what everybody is in the room is just working towards.
So then, like, I kind of want to go off that, Amir. You said it's 90% mentality. What's something, like, that you can remember mentally or physically, I guess, really? Like, what's just a challenge that you faced, you know, that either stopped you for a little bit or, like, you kind of had to overcome and push past that?
Last year at Plainfield North, I had a pretty rough match. I was doing great, honestly. I'd say it was a rough match is kind of a overstatement, but I was, throwing this kid around, scored a lot of points on him, but as I started to get a little more arrogant, and, you know, before the match I was just messing around. I wasn't really getting tapped in mentally. It ended up leading to me losing in the end because I just got absolutely gassed, just trying to show out, and just it kind of backfired on me. But a big mental challenge that the sport kind of puts on you would definitely just be again, just kind of tying back to that expectation, you know, not only from yourself, but definitely from your teammates, you know, and your coaches. Like, everybody, you know, expecting a lot from you, and you just can't let that get to you, for sure.
Marcus, you got anything?
Absolutely. That last part, you know, with wrestling, it's a solo sport. You know, you don't have anyone to blame. Win or lose, you get all the glory or, you know, all the fault. So I definitely say that's a lot of pressure being put on you. I'd say another thing that's kind of hard is, you know, you got the diet, you know. I was like 155, and then I'm coming down to like 132, maybe a little bit lower. So, and that's over a long time, but like staying consistent, you know, progress, it's not linear. You have ups and downs. I'd say if there's one moment in particular that I can remember was at regionals last year. There was this kid who I felt pretty confident. You know, he's, you know, ranked in the state, but I felt pretty confident, and we were doing all right in the beginning. And then he got me in this position where I've never been before, and I just completely lost it. I didn't know what to do. I felt like a brand new wrestler. So I think it's like kind of like that. It's kind of like speaks on wrestling as a whole. It's like you have to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations, you know, just being confident and, you know, when you're presented with the challenge, being like, all right, I just got to approach this and figure it out.
Yeah. And then, Marcus, I'm going to kind of circle back. The first part of your answer, you were tying it back to Amir. You know, and you said at the end of the day it is a solo sport. You know, win or lose, you're kind of on the podium or you're not. As much as it is an individual sport on the field, I got to think there's some part of teammates, you know, and teamwork that they play into, whether that's a coach, whether that's teammates, you know, helping you up after a loss, you know, or celebrating your victories. Can you talk about how, like, you got to keep that mentality as a team, that the team's here to win, and at the end of the day, it's not individuals, you know, for the best?
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a team sport because, you know, in practice, you obviously have a partner, but you're also moving around with other partners. And as a whole, you know, when you guys are grinding it out, it's a tough practice. You know, you look to the guy next to you for support or to push him, to help him out. So overall, I mean, like, you got the guys cheering you on Matt's side. You got the coaches, absolutely a huge part of it. Just building a relationship with the coaches, I think, is very important. But, yeah, absolutely, it's a team sport.
Yeah, 100%. When you're out there, there's always someone, like, you know, cheering you on. There's always someone there for you, whether it's not your parents. You know, this builds a brotherhood. You know, a lot of people don't really have that type of thing in their lives, and I think this sport really gives you that feeling. I know it did for, you know, me and Marcus. It got us a lot closer and got me and a lot of these fellas closer. So, yeah, this sport definitely, it is a team sport too. I 100% agree with that.
So then I think also in Marcus' answer, I'll piggyback off of that, you talked about kind of like that mentality and that, like, presence that you have to have. I think, Amir, you said swagger.
Oh, yeah.
You know, what's that like? You talked about in that North, you want to be confident, you know, you know that you got this, but at the end of the day, you can't let it override you. You know,
you never let it get to you.
What's that about,
never.
Amir?
If you think, you know, it's not bad to have confidence. Confidence is never a bad thing, but arrogance is where it gets dangerous, you know. If you start thinking, you know, you're looking at a guy and you're like, oh, yeah, this guy's light work. You don't know anything. But, you know, you really don't know much about him, especially at this level compared to college and stuff like that. You're not going to know a lot about this guy. So you can never underestimate your opponent. Never. Doesn't matter how big or small he looks. This guy Marcus throws me around sometime in practice, I'll be honest. So, yeah.
Marcus, anything to add?
I'd say, yeah, confidence is key in this sport. I think that's a problem I struggled with last year and working on that now. I feel like a lot of people struggle with that. It's the fact that, you don't want to shoot because, well, then that puts you in a risky position. But if you're not in a risky position, you're not going to score. So it's really just, it speaks on life. So you're going to take that chance to succeed, or you're just going to, sit around, dance around, and feel it out.
Yeah.
You're going to end up losing,
Right.
Yeah, so we'll end on a fun note here. Y'all got any favorite memories? A match? I know Marcus was kind of talking about Cheesehead or something.
Those JV days, man.
Yeah, man. Like freshman year, back when we were on JV, Coal City. It was a tournament about like an hour away or so, and we just opened up the snack bin and we just went to town right after making weight. That was the best.
Yeah, I love these guys know me, after my weight cuts and stuff like that. The past 2 years, I had some pretty significant weight cuts, and just going to town on food with my buddies is probably one of my best memories. And yeah, for sure, definitely those are some things I'll never forget.
Yeah, well, thank you guys. Y'all got anything to add real quick before we wrap up?
Hey, join Neuqua Wrestling. That's
yeah.
the biggest thing. It'll change your life. Thank you so much, Justin.
Yeah, thank you to Amir and Marcus for joining us today on the NVTV Podcast. The NVTV Podcast is produced by media students at Neuqua Valley High School. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much.